Okay, today is February 25th, 2021 at 5 p.m. This is a virtual meeting of the City of Gig Harbor Design Review Board. We will have a roll call and I'll begin. Brett Marlowe DeSantis.
Brett, an amendment to that, March 25th. Is
What
Darren
am I
Fine.
reading? Oh, I'm reading, thank you. I'm reading the draft minutes instead of the agenda. Thank you, Darren. He's very correct, Cindy. Thanks.
Okay.
John Ashlock.
Nels Peterson.
In the picture.
Marlene Drucker.
She's not speaking up, but we also have board member Kent Smith in attendance tonight. I wonder if her audio is okay. We might want to get that figured out. This is Kim Mahoney with staff.
Thanks, Kim. Tommy, can you speak up? I don't have the chat open. Did she chat?
I don't see any. I don't think Zoom has a chat function.
Looks like she's re-logging on.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Okay, in the meantime, staff, you want to roll call?
Katrina Knudsen, the Community Development Director.
Cindy Andrews, planning technician.
Kim Mahoney, staff.
Jeff Langham, Public Works Director.
Marcos McGraw, project engineer.
And Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to acknowledge right now for the record that the last two introductions of Marcus McGraw and Jeff Langhelm are not representative of staff. On behalf of tonight's meeting, they represent the applicant.
Thank you. I think they've been trained to speak up at those points in time. Okay, awesome. Tommy, it looks like you're connecting. Can you give us a shout out here in a second? Tommy, you there? Looks like she might be having some audio issues.
Tommy, do you know that the unmute button is in the lower left-hand side of your screen? There she does.
Well, her mic's not showing at all on her side panel. It's just showing video off, not even a little mic thing. So, well, we'll see if Tommy can speak up whenever she wants to. In the meantime, if you're okay, we can go to minutes. And that was for February 25th of 2021. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve as written.
Thank you, Darren. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Marlene. All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Okay. It sounds like we've got the draft minutes passed. So let's go to our agenda for today. Let's make sure we say that this is an open public meeting and that any written comments were needed to be in before this meeting. Is there anything that Cindy or Kim, you're going to address later? Any public comments?
No, Chair, actually, there's no public notice requirements for a certificate of appropriateness. So this project was not noticed and no comments were received.
Thank you. Okay, and then as far as appearance of fairness issues, is there any reason for anyone on the board to recuse themselves from overseeing this project?
No.
No.
Also, okay.
No.
And then applicants, Jeff and Marcos, is there any reason you would want anyone on the board not to oversee this project?
No.
No concerns.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I'll give Tommy one more shout out. Does she, I see a
I
mic.
finally
Yay!
got the audio.
Okay,
Don't
thanks.
ask me.
That's okay. Welcome, welcome. So we're gonna have the staff report and then the applicant. I guess we can all mute ourselves now. Go for it, Kim.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and as a reminder, yeah, please keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking on the record for clarity. We are recording this. Good evening, everybody. We're here tonight for the DRB's decision on 2 items that are related to the Edinburgh Brick House at 3805 Harborview Drive. By resolution number 1011, the brick house was listed on the Gig Harbor Register of Historic Places in 2015. The applicant has requested the DRB's consideration and issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for their request to remodel 2 elements of the historic Edinburgh Brick House. The first is for the location of a new heat pump, which was approved via a 2019 certificate of appropriateness issued for the reuse of the brick house as a community recreation hall. And the second is for the reconstruction of the brick chimney on the waterward oriented roof plane of the structure. The brick portion of this chimney above the roof plane has been removed by the applicant, citing instability and safety concerns caused by water damage to the mortar. Work on a registered property may not commence without either a certificate of appropriateness or a waiver issued by the DRB. In the present case, the applicant has removed the chimney on the waterward oriented roof plane without the benefit of a certificate of appropriateness or a waiver having been issued by the DRB. As per Gig Harbor Municipal Code 17.97.040 D2, if work is conducted without a certificate of appropriateness on a registered property, the DRB must review the property for removal from the register. Therefore, the first order of business at tonight's meeting will be the DRB's discussion and decision regarding the building's status on the local register. Staff has reviewed the applicant's proposed rehabilitation and has provided its position in section 6 of the staff report that the Edinburgh Brick House should be retained on the register because the applicant is proposing to rehabilitate the brick house pursuant to the Secretary of Interior standards. Should the DRB agree this evening with staff's recommendation, the second order of business is to decide upon the applicant's request for a certificate of appropriateness for the 2 remodel items. To issue a certificate of appropriateness, the applicant's request must be found consistent with the criteria necessary to be met for the approval of the structure's rehabilitation. These 10 criteria are codified in Gig Harbor Municipal Code 17.97.050 and are described in section 6 of my staff report, along with staff's analysis of the applicant's consistency with these criteria. In short, staff finds that the applicant's proposal is consistent with all criteria for approval of a certificate of appropriateness, particularly considering that the applicant is proposing to rehabilitate the deteriorated chimney in a manner compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and massing of the structure's original form, to include the reuse of removed original brick from the structure's chimney that has been retained. See Exhibit A to the staff report for the applicant's narrative and application materials further describing the proposal. At this point, I want to share my screen because there was one item that was included in the applicant's submitted material items that I could not creatively figure out a way to transmit to everybody. It's a video. My first time receiving one of these. And so I wanted to share my screen and play this quick, I think it's like a 9-second video. This is a video that was submitted by the applicant that is intended to exhibit the instability of the structure. I'm sorry, I should specify the instability of the chimney on the waterward roof plane. Can everybody see this Windows Media Player?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody need to see that again?
No.
That was pretty clear.
Okay. This concludes my introduction of tonight's proposal. As always, I'm happy to address any questions that the DRB may have.
Thanks, Kim. Applicant, would you like to go? Actually, does anyone on the DRB have any questions of Kim first before Jeff or Marcos? No? Okay, go for it.
Brett, can I start before Jeff maybe jumps in on this?
Yeah, of course. Go for it. That's what the time's for.
Obviously, I want to make sure that, for any of these CLG type properties that we're doing our due diligence, but at the same time, I also understand kind of the nature of this. And there's a part of me thinking that we are talking about one element that, granted, I mean, they could have, I guess, stabilized it and then set all this up and then we could approve it. But obviously they took the means necessary in order to make it safe. And then just even by the description, say, hey, we're going to rebuild this thing with the same brick in the same form, structurally sound. So I think in one sense, reviewing this to whether or not it actually would remain on the register, I think should be almost a moot point. It's a technicality. And then in regards to these two items, I'm just trying to maybe short circuit a lengthy discussion if it's not needed. So those are my two cents. I really just don't see a lot of discussion that would be warranted by this. But I would defer to our CLG specific DRB members on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Darren. We appreciate your 2 cents. The CLG members, do you want to speak up now or did you want to wait to hear the presentation?
I want to hear the presentation. I'm pretty sure I know my questions on it, so I want to hear what they say. But I agree with
Right.
Darren overall.
Thanks, John. What about Linda? Okay.
Sorry, no, I was trying to get the unmute
Oh,
button.
awesome. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad you raised that, Darren, and I feel very much the same. I'm not sure why we're having to affirm this CLG, and I thought some of that might come out in the discussion, because in the staff report there was some inconsistency, and so I think we should proceed, I guess, with the discussion. But I'd like to agree that this was. I don't think the question of the chimney merits a reconsideration of the CLG, of the certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you, Linda. Having heard that, Kim, before we get into the specifics on the chimney or the heat pump, do you want us to come to a decision on the listed property subject?
Yes, Chair, we are going to have to require that. There just needs to be a concurrence among the DRB on the listing of the brick house. And then if everybody is in concurrence that it can remain listed, then we can go into the discussion of the certificate of appropriateness for the 2 items.
Okay, excellent. So I would like to open up to the board. Would anyone like to make a motion on the matter?
I'd like to make a motion to keep the brick house on the registry as is.
Second.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Marlene. Any more discussion?
No.
Okay. Okay, then I'll ask the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Kim, that motion passes. That good? Okay, awesome.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Jeff or Marcos?
I can give just a brief presentation. Appreciate the fact that it stays on the registry. I don't need to go into the details of why that chimney was removed, but I just want to make sure that it's very clear that we're proposing to work with our contractor who's down there currently doing other work, remodel work on the house, to use the bricks that we were able to save from removal from the chimney and other bricks that we have from the site itself, from the original construction, to rebuild as much as possible. Hopefully we can reuse or we don't have to add any new bricks to it, but we use as many as the original bricks on site or in the chimney as possible. Of course, we can't use all the bricks, but we can use most of them. So that's the intent. And we hope to be able to do that if we can receive approval for certificate of appropriateness later this spring.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
So Jeff, I have a couple questions for you, if that's okay right now, if that's the end of your presentation.
I'll take any questions. That was it.
So
Sure.
what is the chimney being used for right now? What's it servicing?
Nothing. It was used to vent a stove in the kitchen. Marcos, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding. It was used to vent a stove in the kitchen years ago and had not been used for many years. And so it just sat unused.
I'm guessing it's an unlined chimney, no clay center liner.
Correct. Unlined, uncovered. It has no cap on it.
How far down was the chimney damaged from the mortar on it right now? Just below the roof line or further down?
Marcos, would you mind answering that? I think you've been there for an on-site inspection. I have not.
That is correct. 2 weeks ago, we were out there with the contractor, and we have some concerns with what is remaining of the brick chimney below the roof line, and we are prepared to hire a structural engineer to take a look at that remaining sections of the brick chimney below the roof line. The mortar and the brick below the roof line seem to be intact. However, we do have some concern about the bricks below the roof line.
So looking at the video, it's an uncapped chimney right now, i.e. Rainwater could get to the interior of it. I know historically they should be open, and it's a new modern item where they'd be capped to stop that moisture intrusion. If the chimney's not being used, I almost wonder if it should be looked at where that would be capped, but not a visual cap, to stop any moisture intrusion to cause further damage. Have you guys looked at that or thought about that?
We've looked at options to not maybe physically cap it. That is an option, but to seal the inside and allow it to drain without being seen from the outside, so the moisture doesn't get down inside the chimney.
Yeah, the moisture in the inside on an unlined chimney is as a home inspector, it's a common area of failure, cause spalling and of course the mortar failing. So some sort of protection that's not visual would be
right.
ideal.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other questions?
No.
Should we do a vote on the chimney bit or move on?
Do you want to deal with are we dealing with the chimney and the heat pump separate? Okay, then would anyone like to make a motion on the rehab of the chimney?
Are we not going to hear the staff report on the chimney?
Oh, we definitely can. Kim, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, Chair. I provided my synopsis of my staff report.
Maybe it may be easier if I just ask you the question that's on my mind about it.
Sure. Please do.
So it seems to me that that the chimney was presenting a public danger by being unstable, and it seems to me that it was the responsible thing to do to keep it from falling over. And so in your report, you say that it's inconsistent with, let's see where it was. I can tell you where in your report. Here we go. The chapter 17.97050 of the Gig Harbor Code. Staff has considered whether a waiver for the removal of the chimney may have been considered an emergency repair. And then in the next paragraph, you say that let's see, although the work was done prior to approval, let's see, you say that it was that it was inconsistent and that therefore needed to come before our review. So I guess I'm wondering why the staff did not consider this an emergency repair.
Understood. Thank you very much, Board Member Pitcher. I appreciate your clarity on that, and I can speak to that. To be clear, staff does believe that the request is found consistent with the criteria necessary for the board to issue a certificate of appropriateness. But as for the terminology emergency repair or ordinary repair and maintenance that's described in 1797, that is a determination to be made by the building official, who was not consulted in before the chimney was removed.
Who is the building official?
Paul Rice.
Is he an engineer?
He's a certified building official. I don't know if he's an engineer.
Is he consulted for any for all emergency repairs to historic structures?
It is his determination of what can be considered an emergency repair that would allow for that exemption to apply. Yes.
Great. Is there any way that I can just see that somewhere? I mean, I don't want to slow us down, but can you show me where that's the case? You know, on a separate email or something?
Where the building official has given that authorization.
Where the building official has to weigh in on emergency repairs.
I'm sure that I can find something to be able to separately email you.
That's great. Thank you.
Linda does. Oh yeah, let me make sure. Linda, are you done? Are you good?
Yeah.
DeSantis, okay. I'd like to provide a little bit of clarity, if I may. I think there might be some confusion regarding tonight's events, and I know that Kim did provide an update in the beginning about the 3 orders of business here tonight. The staff report is not stating, we're not making a judgment call on what was done. Instead, it is our job as the public stewards of Chapter 1797 to bring forward work that was done on historic registered properties that was not done consistent with what was outlined in the code. And so 1797-050 talks about an emergency repair or ordinary repair and maintenance. An emergency repair would need to come in for an emergency waiver. And ordinary repair and maintenance in our code is specified as work that would not require a permit. And so ordinary repair and maintenance for the chimney to come down, that would have required a permit from our building division, and a waiver was not sought. Now, with that being said, it is incumbent upon the DRB within Title 17 to review these things. And so when staff becomes aware of work that's done on a historic property, although it is painful to add something to the agenda in order to fully carry out the historic nature of our codes, it was incumbent upon us ethically and legislatively to bring this forward to the board. The board has made the decision it's going to stay on the register, which is great, but staff cannot make that determination. That is what the DRB's responsibility is. And so that is why that item was brought before you this evening.
Well, you know, I'm glad that we have weighed in and everybody agrees that it should stay on. I'm finding a little trouble with is, well, one, I wish that all of the sensibilities about historic preservation were brought to bear more regularly. And I find it ironic and perplexing that nobody had a problem with changing the topography of the geography to accommodate the parking and the traffic circle, you know, which fundamentally altered the topography. And if we're going to talk ethics, you know, there have been some serious ethical judgments that have overlooked the high standard of historic preservation regarding this property and others. And so I'm kind of perplexed why, of all things, this is this issue stands out for ethical standards, where the 3 or 4 other decisions we've had to make about this unique, one-of-a-kind property, those same ethical concerns didn't come to bear. So,
Just to clarify, Board Member Pitcher, all of the improvements that are being made at Edinburgh Park that have been proposed by Public Works, including the roundabout, the parking lot, etc. Planning staff identified those as amendments to historic properties and appropriately brought them forward to the DRB. And so for the record and clarity, I would like to note that the DRB did pass all of those certificates of appropriateness in the affirmative, and that was not a staff decision. That was done by the DRB through the appropriate process.
yeah. And while we're thinking about that, if I could see the minutes to that April 20 meeting when we last discussed it, I'd like to see those.
Okay, so in an effort to move forward on this decision, I'm not sure if this, I understand everyone's talking about their concerns. I'm not sure if this is something that should go offline or to the side between Katrina and Linda, or do you want to continue this part of the conversation in this meeting?
Oh, I'm happy to move forward if Katrina is.
Yeah, Chair DeSantis, this would be appropriate to take offline unless other board members have concerns about the decision that was made on previous certificates of appropriateness.
Okay, thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Linda. Would anyone else like to continue this discussion, or should we bring it back to a motion on the rehab of the chimney? Marlene? Yeah, go for it.
Just to follow up on what John was asking, seems this chimney is no longer venting anything, so it serves no purpose anymore. I guess I want to ask, what purpose do we have in reconstructing it, and whether it might just make more sense just to close up the hole in the roof?
On that one, Marlene, the chimney should remain because that is a historic part of the house. My comment was more to making sure moisture intrusion doesn't occur on it.
I understand, but actually, if you look at the elevation of the house, I mean, I guess the chimney there is kind of a quirky, interesting feature, and and things get added to things over time. I guess I would ask why things can't get subtracted to things over time, and it's, the original old building is still an old building. You had a purpose for the chimney. It looks like, just looking at the thing, I don't know if that was original to what was built. This building that was kind of built to suit a certain need. It has a different need now. I don't know if we have to, question for more, I guess, for people who are more interested in historical preservation. I don't know if it's that valuable to, put it there because it was there once. So, okay, it was there once. It wasn't built properly, to withstand moisture and survive time. It's decommissioned and not being used. Do we really have to hang on to it?
Yeah, I disagree. I do think it needs to remain. It was originally most likely a refuse burner or for a wood stove, and then converted into the venting. It is an architectural detail on the house, and it should remain. For the structural stability of it, it's lasted many, many, many years, longer than any chimney that's built today. So I think it needs to remain, but it should be protected so it doesn't have further damage.
Yeah, I agree, John. Along those lines, it occurred to me, has the larger brick chimney been checked for its structural integrity? And maybe that should be done if it hasn't been done already, so that we're not in this position again.
Would anyone like to answer that?
Marcos?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, we are prepared to have a structural engineer go on the site, and they are scoped to inspect the kitchen chimney, which is the one that we're being addressed in this meeting. we have also tasked them to give an informal inspection of the chimney that's over the living room. So we will be inspecting both chimneys when they come out.
Thank you, Marcos. So would it be helpful, since Linda brought that up, to address it holistically, the replacement of potentially both chimneys in this discussion, or do you want us just to address one of them?
I can address that, Chair.
Yes, please.
I think I don't know that that would be appropriate to address. We don't have any application materials in front of us or proposed rehabilitation solutions for the second chimney to be able to make any kind of recommendation to the DRB on the matter. That should come back to the DRB if it proves necessary.
And I
Okay.
I would concur with Brett, depending on the integrity. Oh, sorry, I agree with Kim here.
It's okay.
Sorry. We'll work with the applicant on the second chimney, and if possible, if it can be repaired versus, replacement, then we would want to work that out, and it may not require to come back to the board at that point.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Linda, did that answer your question okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Chair, if I
awesome.
could say one thing too, I believe something that John brought up, or Marlene, the question about this property is regarding retention of the chimney, and why Kim's staff report recommends approval of what Public Works is proposing is that the brick building is under the standard of rehabilitation under Secretary of Interior standards. And so that is what Kim and her staff report evaluated this portion of the certificate of appropriateness for, which does state that historic properties will be retained and preserved, deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of the feature, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, materials. And so that was an important highlight in Kim's staff report in support of Public Works recommendation in order to meet in specifically those two Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation.
Thank you, Katrina. Marlene, does that help?
Yeah, I mean, I have a different philosophy on this, but I will certainly, I'm willing to cede to the to people who are more concerned with the historic retention of, I guess, every feature.
Thank you, Marlene.
Well, may I make a statement?
Yes, Tommy. Yes.
Please. Basically, we have two brick chimneys that go back to when the house was originally built in the 40s. And all that is being done is they are being repointed because the mortar has been absorbed or disappeared due to water damage. We don't know about the second chimney, but it probably also needs to be repointed. So to look at this as a brand new construction or something is ridiculous. All we're doing is repairing existing chimneys. And when you repair an existing chimney of the age of these buildings, those bricks could have been handmade bricks from Fox Island or wherever. Some of the bricks are going to have to be replaced by bricks that come from similar structures. So we're making a mountain out of a molehill, in my estimation. We are retaining the historical structure insofar as having two chimneys. All we're doing is taking them apart and repointing them. And to go along with John's suggestion, putting a hidden cap on them so the water will not go inside and eat the mortar from the interior. Thank you.
Tommy, you're so close to a motion. You want to make that a motion?
You can, but you'll have to reword it.
Well, let me see if anyone wants to make that a motion. Anyone?
I'd like to make Tommy's motion or comment as a motion that we allow the city to rebuild the chimney as is, water protect it, and keep the historic accuracy on it.
Thank you, John. Tommy, you want to second his or anyone second it?
Second.
So
I think Linda beat you. Okay. so
I
we
think
got-
I think she should. She's on the historic preservation chair.
I think that's great. Thank you, John and Linda. I'm going to open it up to any more discussion. If I don't
Chair-
hear anything.
Chair, I
Yes.
believe Director Langhelm has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, when Mr. Ashlock said water protected, were you referring to putting a cap over it?
And not anything that is not visible, if that makes sense.
Yes,
So
it
that
is.
requires the drainage you were talking about, just
Yep.
something where you cannot see.
Cannot see it from the roadway or from the side of the house.
Exactly.
Okay.
I guess I just want to make a point. This wasn't, you didn't just repoint the mortar, you did take the whole thing down, didn't you? Because it was rocking like that. So this is rebuilding. It's not a repair. So I think, I don't know if Tommy missed that video, but when you have a piece of structure doing that, you're taking it down and you're rebuilding it, which is what we're doing to match what was there before. So we should just make sure we're clear about what we're actually approving.
And
Chair-
to my point right now, it doesn't exist. They've already taken it down, correct?
Thank you, Marlene and John, for the record. I just did want to state again for the record that the second chimney no longer is on the structure. So we are talking about a rebuilding.
Okay. And I didn't catch the exact word for word, John. Was that your motion to rebuild it?
Yes, that was my motion.
Okay.
Can I-
Okay. So
Sorry, point of clarification, Brett.
yes, please.
Katrina, wouldn't this be a rehabilitation, just like the Ansys Netshed was a rehabilitation? This would not be considered a rebuilding, but a rehabilitation, is that correct?
That is correct. It would fall under the standards for rehabilitation. The Ansich net shed, however, was a little bit different in the fact that it wasn't wholly taken down. It was done through a process, but we will note in Kim's staff report that we provide multiple instances of support for Public Works recommendation to rebuild consistent with the Secretary of Interior's rehabilitation standards, which is what they're proposing to do.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Linda and Katrina. I'm going to call for the vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, sounds like the motion passes for the rehab/rebuilding of the chimney. Okay, shall we move to the next issue, which is the location of a heat pump? Kim, do you want to start this, or Jeff or Marcos, whomever?
Thank you, Chair. I might invite for Marcos McGraw. There he is, for Marcos to come on. Like I said, my introduction of my staff report already kind of holistically from a 30,000 foot level addressed this, but for more specificity, I would rely on Marcos.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I would just share that during the design phase of this project, we chose to place the heat pump under the deck. And when we started construction and the contractor got into discussion about placing the heat pump under the deck, that would essentially void the warranty of the heat pump. The purpose of putting it under the deck was to avoid being able to view it from the street or otherwise, and making it more obscure rather than putting it on top of the structure or out front in the yard or something like that. And in consultation with the contractor, we have a site selected that is on the back corner of the building. And the building itself and the existing railing and the existing porch make it impossible to view the heat pump at this proposed location.
Did everyone get a chance to see in the report where Marcos is talking about?
Yes.
So can we just confirm where that is? Because if we look at exhibit, let's see, where are we? The pictures, I think, at the end of exhibit A. So and you towards the back, let's see, it shows the first location considered was under the porch, but that was not good because the water rises. The second location was there off to the side, but it interferes with the natural topography. And then the recommended location, can we look at that picture? It's page 4 of 6. Do you guys see it? That's the page. So on this, so it will go what, to like to the left of the window there?
That is correct. Essentially be placed just to the left of the solitary post, just to the left of the window.
Can it be anywhere? I'm wondering why there, as opposed to like if you walk to the other side of the building where the kitchen is. You know, it would be totally out of public view if it was like down the steps. You know, if it was in that space on the, I guess that would be northeast.
Yeah, I have somewhat of an understanding of what you're talking about, in that the that side of the building is the entrance to the building as well as the entrance to the deck. And excuse me, there's also a life vest box that's there. So that would also inhibit access to the heat pump as future maintenance is required or otherwise. So as we reviewed the various locations, we felt that back corner would be the best location. We did consider moving it to the right a little bit, but we were concerned that it would impact the tree that is there and that I understand was planted by Mrs. Hoppen years ago. So we're trying to preserve that tree for sure. So as we looked at the various locations, we felt that this one that is just to the left of the back window is the most ideal.
Hey, Marcos, I have a question for you. Is there a heat pump currently installed in the house?
There is not.
Why are we doing a heat pump?
That was something that was part of the award contract that was reviewed and approved by council when this design contract was awarded for construction.
Well,
So it's
and ultimately it will be a community hall. So won't that make it more comfortable for people to be inside the building?
Well, yeah, but I mean, my house didn't have AC here until like 3 years ago, and that's on the water and windows open. So, I mean, I don't really see a purpose for a heat pump, to tell you the truth. For the few days a year we actually need it.
You're correct. The heat pump, of course, provides heat as well as conditioning. There is only one functional window in this building, and it's upstairs that faces the boat shop building. That's the only window that is functional at this time.
That would definitely make it a little bit toastier on the inside.
Is that always how the building has been? That none of the downstairs windows are, you can open?
There are some windows that were designed to open, but they do not function anymore.
Chair DeSantis, Director Langhelm just got kicked off and he's trying to get back on. And he
Oh,
wants to
he's
talk
coming
to-
in right now.
Okay.
I see him. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, I mean, he's joining in right now. I personally would rather
Yeah.
see the windows be freed up because they're probably just painted shut and not install a heat pump. I mean, the house has been that way forever. And for the years we need it, it's kind of, I mean, that is a maintenance item down the line, especially being that close to the water.
Well, isn't it a moisture issue as well, though? I mean, aren't you trying to maintain the air quality control in there?
The air quality control is controlled by the interior. It's not by the heat pump. The heat pump will remove a slight bit of moisture out of it because it is an exchanger. So you do have some condensate that comes off of it. But that could be accomplished in other ways where you don't have to have a device on the exterior of the house. And really, even a heat pump nowadays, 20, 25-year life expectancy, being that close to salt water, you're going to get 10 years out of it if you're lucky, no matter where it's located on the property.
So am I understanding that some of you on the board want to understand why that was chosen or what the process was in that? Is
Yeah.
there anyone who can speak to that?
Being that it's a historic structure, yes, this is adding to the exterior of a historic structure. I wonder why the need. And really, more importantly, I think if there's windows painted shut, the windows should be freed versus adding in a heat pump and an AC unit. If it's for heat, a furnace could do the interior and you won't see it.
Jeff, can you hear that? You want to respond?
Sure, yeah. A few reasons why the heat pump was added. We did consider just not having a heat pump first. We just to provide heat by electric heaters, wall heaters. However, if you recall, the second story of this building is also going to be used by the Gig Harbor Boat Shop for historic record keeping. And so we want more of a climate control building in here, and with consistently rising temperatures and again, not having the windows be able to be open, we could do that, but then we're going to be introducing still temperature fluctuations, moisture from coming in from being right on the bay. The intent was to have a more solid climate controlled facility for not only users of the community rec hall, but also for the records documentation that's going to be occurring in the upstairs.
Thank you, Jeff. John, does that help answer the question?
It does a little bit. I like Linda's input on it though, too.
I mean, some of this is out beyond my technical understanding, but I agree functioning windows would be most historic. I also know there's two other concerns I have. I know that mold was a problem and a big part of the rehab of this building. So I don't know if the heat pump helps remediate potential mold. That would be a plus in favor in my view. And then the other question that I have is just the noise, you know, I didn't actually think that side of the building was considered the north side of the building, considered the entrance. I would have considered the south side of the building the entrance to the building and the deck. I know those things kind of make some noise, and if you know, there's a function out there or something, is that something to consider? And if it is, maybe we should. I'd still vote for putting it on by the kitchen.
So Linda, for your comment for the humidity control and mold, forced air is definitely a critical item. You can add a dehumidifier inside of a forced air system without a heat pump. And you need ambient temperatures of at least 50 degrees for that dehumidification, which again, you could do with an internal unit with a built-in dehumidifier instead of an exterior AC unit.
Well, I would defer to your expertise on that. You know, you know, I agree that functioning windows would be awesome, would be preferable. I don't
On the
know.
note for the records retention for the boatyard, where have they been storing their equipment now? I mean, it's one where, again, if you get the dehumidification out of there through the furnace, it would be just as safe. You don't need AC for that. AC is the reason for the heat pump, besides energy savings. My general vote is to add dehumidification, a forced air furnace, and no heat pump exterior.
Is it okay if I respond now to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so just to be clear, and maybe I missed part of this, but there is no forced air furnace in the building now. And so the intent was the dehumidification will have to happen either by completely redoing the heating system in the building, and then we could add the dehumidifier, or we'd have to be adding freestanding dehumidifiers inside the building. And so it's not as easy as just putting a dehumidifier in front of or behind the forced air furnace. It doesn't exist.
So Jeff, there is no ducted system in the house, correct?
Correct.
So, but
Thank
to
you.
add exterior heat pump, you would have to be adding the ducted system too, or are you doing a mini split?
Mini split, ductless system.
It's a ductless system. Okay, I was not clear on that one.
Yep. Sorry for the confusion.
Thank you,
Linda,
that's very
on the-
helpful.
Yeah, that's a big diff on that one. So Linda, on the ductless system, by the way, they are a much smaller unit. They are extremely quiet. I'm guessing you're going to be doing a multiple zone system, so probably a couple different ductless on there.
How many heads do you have on it, Jeff?
I'll have to rely on Marcos for that. I think there's 2.
That is correct. There are 2 for that size of building.
For the service lines, are you going to be routing those on the exterior of the building or through the interior of the building? I know typically when you're going to a second story on a mini split, you have a 4 by 6 inch plastic housing that does the condensate lines. That would just look terrible.
The current design is that it will run on the inside.
How big is the exterior unit? Typically, they're only about 1.5 feet in thickness and like a 3 by 3 square, I'm guessing.
That is correct. Yes.
So John, are you concerned about the drip line?
No, so ductless systems, I mean, I do like them in the sense that they are silent. I mean, literally for inspection wise, I have to physically go and see the blade spin because I can't hear them from a distance. So for serviceability of the building and using it for events, there's going to be no sound. I mean, it's really nice. Interior wise, yeah, you see the inside units, which aren't the prettiest of items, but they do make some that hide behind pictures, so you don't necessarily see them instead of the big wall units. But again, as long as the condensate lines are interior and not being fed up the side of the brick, I have less of an issue with having that on that location where you guys determined, because again, it would be silent and it just won't be noticed as much.
Thanks, John. I happen to have a lot of experience with mini splits and they're awesome. So I don't think you guys will have a problem with that. They'll do what you want them to do.
Yeah, no, I take back, if mini split would have been said in the beginning, I would have been much happier. So again, I'm fine with the mini split in the location that's been determined, as long as all those condensate lines are hidden and not on the exterior of the building.
Thank you, John. Okay, so Linda, you want to speak to that?
Well, yeah, no, that sounds good to me too. Where does that leave us with as far as windows go?
I agree. It would be nice to see the windows opened up too. I mean, they should open, but.
Is that in the offering or not?
Jeff, do you want to speak to that?
We've been steering away from trying to make the windows open because of, well, for a few reasons. One is cost, but 2 is really just the fact that once we get windows that operate, then you have to make sure that, especially this era of windows, that we make sure that they're either worked gently by, community members that are coming in and out of there routinely, and then be ready for repairing any damage that might happen to those. It's
Those would be
preferred-
what, casements on that building?
They should be single pane, double hung.
I believe they are single pane, double hung.
Yeah, they are pretty easy to free up, but yes, the weights need to be adjusted properly so they don't fall.
And I was going to speak to that, John. Some of the, a couple of the windows that do open, the mechanisms and the pulleys and the weights, some of the weights are missing, some of the pulleys are rusted. So it would take more than just, scraping some paint free to get them to move.
Oh no, I've restored many of those windows in the past, and you're talking work-wise about an hour and a half, 2 hours per window to free them up, to do it properly. There's not many people know how to do it properly though. A lot of people just put a pry bar on them, which break the windows. So it's kind of a sensitive area for me, as you could tell. I definitely, if it's going to be done, it needs to be done properly, just not by Joe Brillo, if that makes sense.
Thank you, John. Staff, would you like this issue to be related to what we're discussing, or do you want this to be a separate issue? I don't know if this, is part of a motion or it goes offline and it's a suggestion, or how do you want to
Right.
deal with the windows?
The windows, if we talk about, oh, sorry, Chair, I'll address.
No,
your question.
please go for it.
So the windows, if we started talking about changing the windows, we're going to be back here because that's another change that's yet to be addressed by staff, yet to be addressed in any materials. And we have very specific standards in our historic design manual related to window design, materials, size, type of window. That's absolutely going to need to come back to the DRB for their consideration of that. So it's not something that we'd be able to holistically accept a motion on this evening.
Yeah, I'd like to see the windows totally separate. If they touch them, they need to come to us. If they're leaving them alone, leave them alone.
Okay, so then why don't we proceed with making a motion on the subject at hand, and then we could address that after the motion has either been accepted or not accepted. Does anyone like to make a motion on the heat pump and its location?
I would love to. I'd like to make the motion to accept the installation of a mini split at the desired location, as long as the condensate drain lines and service lines are not being ran out of the exterior of the building and visible on the brick structure.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, any more discussion on the matter? Then I will call for the vote. Are we in agreement for the motion to pass on the new mini split? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes on the mini split. Let's go ahead and just, I guess, wrap up this project with whatever needs to be said about the windows. I'm not sure how to go about this. Is it a,
If I may.
Help. Yes.
The applicant is not proposing to touch the windows, and it would be, since they are not requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the windows, my recommendation would be the DRB could give suggestions, but since the applicant is not proposing to touch the windows, I don't believe it would be appropriate to require or ask that they make them open if they're not going to touch them.
Okay, so the proper thing would be a suggestion is what I'm hearing?
Yes, I believe the DRB could make a suggestion, but I don't believe it would be appropriate to require it to come back since the applicant is not touching the windows.
Okay, thank you, Katrina. So I guess John or Linda or anybody else, would you like to make a suggestion?
Yeah, I'd make a suggestion to not touch the windows.
Wait, when you say not touch the windows, then we lose our option to make them open.
During this construction phase, don't touch the windows. But if you do, come back to us for proper recommendations and remediation.
Okay, well, since that's not a motion, I don't have to ask for a second or approval. Would anyone else like to speak to the matter?
Well, I have a
Okay.
question. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Let's vote.
yeah,
and then,
go for it.
let's vote and then I'll ask my question.
We don't have to vote. It was a suggestion. You can ask a question.
Yeah, so just a matter of procedure. If John and I have a suggestion regarding the maintenance of a historic structure or how would we approach you to suggest that? I'm just wondering about, in the DRB, we're actually, as you guys know, supposed to have an active public outreach program, which, has fallen silent under the repeated kind of dragging out of the appearance of conflict because the city is the applicant so often in historic properties. And that's an ongoing problem that has yet to be resolved. So until we resolve it, and I think we are going to revisit the manual soon, what do John and I do when we have suggestions like just for example, this one, that it might be nice to have opening windows?
Trina, can you speak to that?
Yeah, definitely. Linda, I think the most appropriate thing, if you or John have any suggestions or concerns regarding registered properties, would be to contact Senior Planner Carl DeSimas. He is responsible for the historic preservation portion of our comp plan and the code, and is also in regular contact with DAP and the Historical Society. So I would recommend that you give him a call to alert him to your concerns or ideas, and then we can address those.
Along those same lines, seeing as you guys are reconsidering the comp plan, if there are certain elements that I would like to see restored to the comp plan about historic preservation that were once there and that are no longer, do I send those concerns to Carl?
Yes, that would be great. And then we can figure out how to address them. I believe that we can hold a CLG meeting with just the two of you to discuss those things and bring them forward to the DRB or to the Planning Commission, but there's definitely a process to take those forward that Carl can assist with.
Great. If we could get that in motion somehow. I mean, not urgent. I mean, I don't know what your timeline is, but there are some things I'd like to share with him and you about that.
That's excellent. And for the rest of the board's information as well, we're coming up on starting next year in 2022, getting ready for a large 20-year comprehensive plan update, and we will be doing outreach to the CLG members as well as the DRB about any holistic changes or changes that board members may want to see us docket for that major comp plan update. So with that, be thinking about those, but definitely, Linda, reach out to Carl with any immediate concerns or ideas.
Thank you, Katrina. And will that meeting, will that be like a working meeting instead of a project?
Yes, it will. And similarly with the design manual update that was budgeted for, or look at that, that's something that we're hoping to launch later this year. And that would be a full board DRB meeting or set of meetings where we will be a work session or a committee of the whole rather than having specific projects. And those meetings will be for the explicit purpose of receiving board feedback on the manual and the process. And similar to this evening, the project coming forward and utilizing where we needed to look at a registered property and amendments for retention on the register. If that's not something that the board or the CLG members are interested in retaining in our code, that's something that we can look at removing from the process. So again, there'll be opportunity where we'll be seeking your feedback.
Awesome. Awesome. I know there's a bunch of us who are really looking forward to that. So thank you very much. Okay, well, I think we can let Jeff and Marcos enjoy their evening. You guys don't have to hang out if you don't want to. Thank you. And then I'm going to ask Cindy, is there anything that the board needs to know about? I can't hear you, Cindy.
Get $1 for every time you have to tell somebody that they're on mute. Just kidding.
Well, the mute button's in a different place today, so I'm sorry about that. Upcoming meetings, April 8th, DRB, we have Busich Industrial Building and also Kenwood Commercial Building coming before you, so.
I
staff
will not
reports.
be here that meeting. Is there?
That is correct.
So Darren, I guess you're up to run that one. You good with that?
Yeah, I think I can handle it.
I think you can too.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, is there any other discussion on any other matter before we hear a motion from someone to adjourn? Okay, 1, 2, 3, go for it. Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Right on. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you guys, good job.
Yeah, Linda, hang on the line once we stop recording.
Okay,
Okay,
bye, guys. Thanks.
bye.
Have a great evening.
Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the recording if I can find it.
Cindy,
Okay.
I wonder if can you hang on just for a second so they can, or turn off the recording and then let
Yeah.
them exchange numbers before you close out?